Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Uncaged. This is Season 4, Episode 2. My name is Mike Clark, and as always, by my side is my dude, my boy, the one, the only, Mr. DC, Daniel Crimmins. How are you, Daniel?
As I do Sabu, I am great.
Yes, as we also put up the Too Sweet for our peeps, we are going to be talking about, we flipped the script on this one. So we were originally going to go ECW on Sci-Fi, but that will be our next one since it is very topical now with Vice, which is produced by The Rock, the Who Killed WCW 4-parter. I figured we talked the NWO 2002, the horrible, watered-down version of the NWO. A man tears his quad. Oh, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it.
You know that meme that you always see? It says, "Mom, I want this." Oh, we have that at home.
Yep.
That's what this was. Like,
yep. Well, let's be honest here, because I have watched, I know you said you haven't seen episode 2 yet, but the first 2 episodes, for those who've not seen Who Killed WCW, is really, really good.
It is. It's very well done.
I think with so far, everybody's blaming everybody, and I mean, in this one, you'll get to see more of the Goldberg-Brett kick to the head, the Sting Hulk Hogan Starcade finish, and how that everybody went into an uproar over that, the fast count, and then here comes Brett. It was a shit show.
And just we'll touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
Sting was not in ring shape.
No, not at all at the time. No.
Like, you could tell, like, within like 3 minutes, Hogan and Bischoff basically had to call an audible and basically say, okay, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, and that 97 later part, Sting wasn't as Stinger as he is now.
No. Like, and, I'll say, with the WWE NWO, they missed the boat. The time to do it was the Invasion.
Yes.
Do your Invasion angle, but at the same time, buy out Hogan's contract, buy out Hall's, buy out Nash's, do the NWO at the same time. So the NWO is attacking both parties.
What I like about it too, as well, is, let's just also say this as well. From the inception of the NWO, I'm going to say right now, since you did mention Sting, Sting would have not have worked as the third man at all.
God, no.
No, it would have not worked at all. Let's just put that out there.
To me, Sting in the NWO Black and White as the leader would have been about as effective as Stone Cold turning heel at Mania 17.
That's a good equivalent. Now, what about...
It wouldn't have worked.
Now, what about when Sting was the leader of the Main Event Mafia in TNA?
See, he wasn't really a full-fledged heel, though.
No, he was still kind of like quasi-babyface.
But, I mean, Sting as a heel... And for folks, those of you that don't understand, we're talking about Bash at the Beach 96, right?
Yes, sir.
It was Sting, Randy Savage, and Luger.
Yep.
Versus the Outsiders, which was the late great Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and a mystery partner. We didn't know who it was going to be. Well, the partner never shows up. So you're like, okay, 3-on-2. And then everybody's down, and then Hogan comes out. And you're like, yeah, he's gonna help out the good guys. And then there's that classic line.
Whose side is he on?
Bobby Heenan, where he says, yeah, but whose side is he on?
What are you
Ronnie just saying, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
And which, from what I understand, they didn't know.
No, I think only like a small portion of people actually knew.
And then you see them clear the ring, and you see them bounce back. You're like, no. What? And then you hear, and the crowd just
booed.
For a moment of just silence, where you're just like,
what?
And then here's what they consider that match a disqualification.
Mm-hmm.
Officially is a DQ. He was their partner.
He was the third man, brother.
So technically,
Technically, they would have won.
Yeah,
They won.
it's wrestling.
Nothing makes sense. It's pro wrestling. Don't even question it.
And it would have Hogan being the third man. It worked. Like I can't think of anybody else that it could have worked with.
I think the need for change was there. Like Hogan hadn't been a heel since like what, the early 80s when he had Classy Freddie Blassie with him. And yeah, like he hadn't been like a heel in like what, 16 years?
And here's the thing, like that time, like if you watch that first episode, they mentioned they were starting to boo Hogan.
Well, because the shift of they wanted more edgy and rawness. They didn't want the cookie cutter babyface.
They didn't want the same thing that they'd been seeing for the last, at this point, this was 94, the last 11 years.
Yeah.
10, 11 years. They wanted different, and it's similar to now where before AEW came along, we wanted some fans were clamoring for something different. Now we got it.
Yeah, and the thing for me with Hogan is I look at it like this. The trash being thrown in the ring. You could call this the New World Order of professional wrestling, brother. Like from him switching from the red and yellow to the black and white. You bring in X-Pac, Six-Pac comes in, you bring in the Giant, you bring in the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Which to me, like of all the people that have ever been members of the NWO,
yeah,
Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, I was about to say I didn't understand that one. Like why? Like the $1 Million Man.
Everybody, Kevin or X-Pac, Six-Pac, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, they're all buddies.
Colin Nash.
Makes
sense.
The Giant. Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah, makes sense. And Andre's kid makes sense.
Makes sense. Yes, Andre's kid.
But so many people made sense. Then there are people that fucking didn't. Even that made no sense. And he's in a suit. Like, wear a t-shirt.
Come on, Rick. Oh yeah, Rick Rude. Scott. Well, who else? Stevie Ray made no sense to be in the NWO. Stevie Ray made no sense.
At that point, they were just adding everybody.
Scott Norton.
Well, that was different. He was more NWO Japan.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, if you think about it, was like a pre-Bullet Club.
That is true. I mean, for me, one of my favorite members has got to be Scott Steiner when he turns on Rick and then he just comes and he's now Big Bad Booty Daddy. That was one of the best ones for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you talk about character change, like, wow.
Mm-hmm. That was my thing. Like, from the promos, from how he wrestled, the look, the every aesthetic of it, like, Scott fit, like, one bet. Virgil, no, Vincent. No, I could have done without Virgil being in the NWO.
No VK Wall Street.
Oh, poor Mike Rotunda. Yeah. Oh,
but like I said, dude, they were literally putting everybody. We were in the NWO for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, Disco Inferno.
Good old Glenn Gilberti.
Yeah. He pissing people off again, bringing the comment he made about Dax Harwood and his hematoma. Yeah. Yeah,
he's like, when is he not? Like, is there ever a day when he's not causing trouble?
Well, with Glenn Gilbert, I respect the fact that he did what he did in the business, but he was always a comedy character, number one, but also number two, he doesn't do a lot of this. He makes some good points, but he just likes to troll a lot.
You know what he is? He was the 90s version of Santino Marella.
I could see that, yes, very much. Fandango even, kind of Fandango-ish.
Not as good, though.
No. Now, as far as members, I got to mention, because when we get to NW 2002, which we'll get to in a second, but how about Dusty Rhodes being in the NWO?
See, that worked. Because Dusty as a heel, the American Dream, baby, as a heel. I remember watching that and at that point, Dusty was not he was a big fella at that. I mean, he was always been a big fella, but real big fella.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked.
Well, it shocked everybody because, again, the ultimate babyface, Dusty Rhodes, the common man, he was on commentary and then he joins the NWO.
Finishing the story.
Finishing the story. Yes, I see what you did there. Also, the fact that, like, for other members, for me, when you start bringing in, like, Jeff Jarrett and friggin' Bret Hart at the end in NWO 2000, which was just horrible and should not have ever happened. Did you like, but even just how horrible that was? Did you like how we got the Wolfpack then with Scott Hall and Sting and Kevin Nash and all them doing their thing, and it was the battle with
Wolfpack worked. The problem, the finger poke of doom
killed it.
And then randomly everything is just hunky-dory. No explanation. Like, you're literally beefing up until this point. And then the next night, like, everything's...
Well, that was my thing. Kevin Nash on this episode of Who Killed WCW, I'll give you a quick spoiler, but he says it all the time. He's like, you know why that pissed people off? Because we got him. No, Kevin. That's not why it pissed us off, because we were expecting a title match, and then you guys go out there and do bullshit, and you see people literally standing up like this, like, what the fuck is going on here? It had nothing to do with you getting us. It had the fact that it was ridiculous, and it made no fucking sense.
No, because, like, literally, you know, I get it. It's wrestling. You know, things aren't going to make sense.
Right.
All the time. You're literally feuding up until this point. And then... and here's another thing. You spray paint the belt red.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd think, oh, it's going to have red. You know, it's going to be the red and black NWO. Okay, fine.
Yeah, Wolfpack.
You change it to silver. Silver spray paint.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it made no sense.
And then they just basically disband the NWO. The other members of the Wolfpack are just sort of like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Like Savage not doing anything.
No.
Luger turns heel again. Conan's out. Sting's just whatever.
Whatever. Conan's gonna make the Filthy Animals, brother. Him and the unmasked Rey Mysterio.
Which I still say, unmasking Rey was the dumbest fucking thing they could have ever
made. God, when I mean, first of all, I love Bow Wow Wow, Yippee Yo, Yippee Yay, Viva La Raza all day, every day. But yeah, it was dumb. It was so dumb. Like, he's trying to be all hood. I'm like, what are you doing to my beloved Rey Mysterio, the luchador that we all loved? You killed it. You killed Ray.
And Rey's even said that when he found out WWE was giving him the mask back, he was happy.
Well, yeah, because you killed the Lucha Libre mystique.
If you watch that match, if you rewatch the moment when he unmasked, you can tell he was pissed.
So I'm going to put this into perspective because Daniel Crimmins brings up a great point. Kevin Nash and Rey Mysterio, I believe it was uncensored 1999. Kevin Nash wins. Rey takes it off, and he has that look on his face like he's ready to whoop some ass. Rey was not happy that he had to unmask.
And he'd been fighting it, and they're like, no, we're doing it. We're doing it. You got to realize at this point, Rey had a young family. He was married. He just had Dominic. He had Dominic. Dominic, I think, was like 2 or 3 at the time. He was a real little kid. At that time, there weren't a lot of opportunities for somebody his size,
right,
to make as much money as he was making then.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the NWO too, like you mentioned, Savage and everybody going off on the finger poke of doom. You had everything from the black and white feuding with the red and the red and everything. But when I look at it from the red and black to the black and white, you had also the Goldberg thing in between where Kevin Nash wins. And then next night, like you mentioned, finger poke of doom, you could have done Kevin Nash and Goldberg in a rematch, but here comes the Hulkster. It's
probably Hogan's idea.
From what Kevin Nash has said in interviews, I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to do a rematch of what happened a year prior with Goldberg and Hogan, and Goldberg winning it back from Hogan, which is just like, all right, I guess. So maybe, I don't know. But he's like, when Goldberg put his hand through that car, that windshield, that's what ended it for him. I'm like, yeah, because Bill was dumb and he freaking broke his hand and put it through real glass.
Cry him a river.
I see what you did there. But no, it's like that. The incarnation of the NWO, I think for me, the formidable years from like 96 to 97 was great. Once we got to like 98 to 2000, I'm like, okay, it's run its course.
Once you really started adding names and people that you didn't need to.
Yeah.
And then you have the LWO, which, I like it now. I like it now better than I did then.
Yeah, I like it now with Ray and the what's his face, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro and Selena Vega and all them. I like it now, yeah.
And Dragon Lee, and
Dragon
if the rumors are true, Penta.
If Penta goes to WWE, yep, I'd like to see
Penta.
I
Honestly, I think he's going to.
It would be so huge just to see that. And also, they have a Lucha Underground connection with Ray and Penta as well, so that's pretty
That'd
cool.
be good. Do that. I wouldn't be shocked if Phoenix goes too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this right now. With Carlito's run with him, like trying to be in Judgment Day, I'm kind of very on Carlito right now.
Carlito's run here has just not been good.
No, I mean, like the match with Ray, like was kind of meh for me, and it wasn't Ray's fault. The Carlito was just very meh.
Like since he's come back, like
I haven't really been feeling it. I haven't been feeling the cool of Carlito.
That's not cool.
He's not cool.
What was funny, that backstage segment where Dominic's like, she gave me her room key.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Wait, what are you talking about? Like that was so good because Carlito would have went to that hotel room, but that's the beauty of it, man. And like,
Finn pocketed the room key.
I did. Finn pocketed it. Now, how much you want to bet Finn and Liv are in on it? And they know. It's the dissension of the Judgment Day, and I'm here for it.
And honestly, Rhea comes back, she's going to be a face.
Which is,
you really want to do something, you want to keep Judgment Day going, have them turn on Rhea.
That would be sweet. Yeah, and have Liv Morgan with them now. That could be a nice dynamic.
Here, I don't know what condition Rhea's in as far as her recovery. Have Rhea win Money in the Bank, cashes in on Liv. Dominic, you think he's going to hand the briefcase to Rhea? No.
Nope.
He hands it to Liv.
Yep. Writes itself.
Dom's turning.
Yeah, and it writes itself. Also, the fact that Liv was on top of him, and I'm like, that's not PG, but it was funny as hell, and I love it. I love what they're doing with this character now. It makes perfect sense. And I mean,
Dom has gotten so much better. Turning him heel was the best thing for him.
Well, because before it was just like, oh, it's Ray's son. Now it's like this little shithead, like, and he works, man. He works. He's learning, and he's adapted in this past 2 years.
To the point where, honestly, he's earned it.
He has. And I mean, for me, I look at it like this. Like you mentioned the LWO, not the newer one, but the older one. Which was the first one? Was it Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, and who else was in the LWO?
So the first one, if I remember right, it was Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis.
Yes.
Hector Garza.
Yes.
Who, for folks that don't know, he is the uncle of Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza.
Yep.
I think it was El Dandy, was in it.
Yes, El Dandy and Ray.
Basically, folks, what they did, if you were a Latino in WCW, you were put in the LWO.
You were in the LWO. Yep.
And that's not me, being racist or anything.
That's how it was.
Basically what they did.
That's legit what they did. And we have the Lucha Libres. What are we going to do? LWO. That's literally what it was.
Like, I think what they were trying to do, they were basically trying to turn the LWO into like a version of the Nation of Domination.
Because the Nation of Domination was hot at the time, so they wanted to combat that.
Yeah, they thought, well, they had that with African Americans. Let's do that with Latino people.
And it didn't work at all. I mean, you had Los Barricos in WWF, Savio.
I think, that's what they were going with. I think they were trying to do both, kind of like more, less of like the coolness, more of like the. I think even Chavo Guerrero Jr. was part of it too.
Yes, he was before he had Pepe.
Before Pepe.
the horse, and he was nuts. Oh God! Again, so many ideas in WCW. This is again, it was going off the rails at this time. It was
which
going
is
off,
what we do.
which is what we do. But yes, as far as off the rails go, like I still say this because they talk about the profitable years. 96 to 97 for me with the NWO.
I would say so. Yeah,
yeah. But when we
and,
get to 98 to 2000, it's horrible.
You know, to me, when they started playing hot potato, and to me, this is where it really started, and stopped me. So, Starrcade '97, we have Sting versus Hogan.
Yeah.
Sting being the savior of WCW, the Crow, who, folks, if you don't know, that was Scott Hall's idea.
Yeah, he's the one who pitched it.
And God rest his soul, Sting, you better thank Scott Hall for it. He saved your career.
Oh my God, going away from Surfer Sting to the Crow, yes.
Was it risky? Oh, yeah. But it worked. And you know what? So you have Starrcade '97, despite all the interference, Sting pulls it off. You have that feel-good moment with the roster and Sting holding the belt up in the air. And then the next night, you get a rematch.
Yep.
And I remember this. I think if I remember right, the show goes up the air with Hogan in the Scorpion Deathlock, just about to tap out, which I think officially he did.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, he did, tap out, and that was it. And the whole thing was, we got the footage, and Hogan was starting to sue if they aired it, and they ended up having a rematch at not Bash at the Beach. It was a Super Brawl.
Yes.
Super Brawl?
Yeah, it was Super Brawl.
I think Sting won that one. The vacant title.
Yes.
What the hell was the damn point?
I don't get it. Like, they were just flying by the seat of their pants. That's what I'm saying. I laugh at this now because they didn't know what they were doing. And Eric has even said, like, they wouldn't find out what they were doing until like 10 minutes before the fucking event.
Because they kept rewriting it. You had the problem with WCW and the NWO, you had too many cooks in the kitchen.
But you also have to understand the locker room. It's like, how many times are we going to get beat up by the NWO? Like, I'm tired of getting beaten up by the NWO. Because every week they were getting beaten up by the NWO.
Yeah. And, Hall, Nash, Hogan all had creative control. Like, they didn't want to do it. They weren't going to do it.
And then you gave Kevin Nash the booker position for a temporary spot, like in '99, and that went to shit. That went to shit.
And, of course, he booked himself to beat Goldberg.
Well, he will clearly state he would never do that. He's like, they were chanting Goldberg sucks, and he even said on this edition, I mean, I don't mean to spoil it for you, Daniel. I know you're going to watch. He goes, the baby face is better when he's in the chase, and he's trying to make that allure of it. Which
but he's right there.
He is. He has. He's correct.
Let's look at modern day wrestling. Look at Cody Rhodes.
Yes, the baby
now
face.
That Cody has the belt. It's sort of like, okay,
yeah, I don't hate it. I really don't. I'm not like everybody else. I don't hate it.
But it's like I don't hate it, but it's like, can we like get Roman back now? Like,
well, yeah, we're kind of at that point. We all want Roman back.
But Roman said this was going to happen.
Yep, he did.
Like, you gotta have like long-term baby faces, like just as champions, don't work.
I mean, thus far with Cody's run, I mean, the matches with AJ, the match with Logan Paul was good. Like, he's had some good. Yeah, he's had some good stuff so far. And I'm looking forward to him and AJ tomorrow at I Quit, at Clash of the Castle. I'm down for that.
Honestly, Cody needs to turn heel.
We're at that point. Yeah.
Hear me out. And I saw somebody on YouTube to say this, and you know what? I can't get it out of my head because it works so well.
Okay.
You have him say, his brother couldn't do it, but he did it. His father could never finish the story, but he did it. A son of a plumber couldn't get the job done.
Okay. I like that.
You have him utterly just piss off, and I guarantee you people will immediately shit on him.
think what we could have had. Yeah,
I will continue.
sure.
Is why you put him with Tully Blanchard.
All right. Okay.
Who feuded with Dusty almost as much as Ric Flair?
Baby doll, the whooping I'm going to put on you was shameful. Yep.
And you have Tully and Cody. Can't tell that wouldn't work.
No, it would. And I mean, this is what we could have had in AEW, but we didn't get that in AEW.
Thank you, Anthony Khan.
Well, Cody didn't want to turn heel. So then
that's when you say, I'm the boss.
Yes.
This is what you're doing.
I'm going to turn heel. You're going to turn heel, Tony. Doing it for the sickos. Okay. Just doing it for the sickos. Somebody take that man's phone from him. Like, seriously.
They finally just basically quietly dropped the NWO and WCW. They're like, yeah, turn its course, done.
Yeah.
And then we get WWE, or sorry, WWF. 2002, like January, you have Vince saying, I can't deal with Ric Flair. And you see him basically despondent in his office. You see these vignettes, and you say, I don't think I have the power. I don't want to do it.
I'm not going to let Ric Flair kill my creation.
And then he says, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill what I create. I'm going to inject it with a lethal dose of poison. And then he's turning in front of a mirror, and then he turns around and says, me. Turns around and he says, and the NWO. And you see the NWO logo on the back of his chair.
The NWO.
That was mistake number one.
Okay.
What they should have done, just have them show up.
Yes.
And, you have the NWO working for Vince.
All right, here.
What I would have done if I were booking this, have them start out working for Vince, but then have Vince lose control. You have Vince taking over. You have it look like they're going to do Vince's bidding, and then they stop listening to him. You have them, and then what you do, you have them on the stage. You have Vince getting Nash's chest, and he pokes me and says, you work for me. You do what I tell you to do. And then you powerbomb Vince off the stage through a table.
Much like he did with Bischoff.
And then what do you hear? You hear the NWO music. Who comes out? Eric Bischoff.
Yep.
And it was really Bischoff that was pulling the strings of the NWO. You bring Bischoff out then.
Instead of as the
That's
GM.
when you should have brought Bischoff in.
Instead of being the GM. Yeah.
You still could have done that. But in a different way. And you have Bischoff leading the NWO.
So, I mean, to go on to your point, man, I mean, with what they did with NWO coming in, I mean, let's just be honest with us here as well. The fact that they did at the No Way Out pay-per-view, NWO, the No Way Out pay-per-view in 2002. Did you like their speech? Did you like the opening where they all come out and everybody's cheering them?
Yeah.
It was good.
It was cool, but that's also when you knew it wasn't going to work.
Well, I mean, the backstage segment with The Rock, Big Daddy Cool, Diesel. Like that segment was cool. Austin tossing the beer. We're just trying to offer you some beer, man. They screw Stone Cold in the match with Jericho. Now,
and then you have the opening segment where you just want to have some beer with the boys, making fun of Scott Hall's alcoholism. Real cool.
Yeah,
real cool.
So,
but I will be honest, at that point, Scott Hall was still a train wreck.
Oh my God. Like for me going into this WrestleMania, and I got to ask you if it was going to, so it was originally going to be Austin and Hogan, which would you have rather seen that or Hogan and Rock with what we got?
Hogan and Rock was perfect. Hogan and Rock had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at one point there was the worry that Scott Hall was not going to be in any shape to wrestle. That's why you saw Nash in his gear. Which is just, it's sad that, because Scott Hall should still be alive.
Agreed. And I mean, with what he's done, and I mean, WrestleMania 18 gave us one of the best oversells of a stunner in the history of stunners.
Between him and The Rock.
Or, I mean, Austin Theory did one that was good at WrestleMania. That was a little over the top, but everybody tries to do the Scott Hall bump now. Like, everybody loves the Scott Hall sell and the stunner. Did you think, now looking at that match, knowing that both guys, one was burnt out, that being Steve, and Scott was not in the best of shape either, but did you even think that was a good match with what they pulled off?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't great.
But it was what it was.
For what it was, it could have been worse. To me, Austin after Mania 17 was not the same.
I mean, you had the matches with Taker and the power trip with Triple H.
If I remember right, after 18, it wasn't long after that he walked out.
Yeah, that was the match with Brock going into King of the Ring. Yep.
Which I honestly agree with Austin.
Well, he should have been a pay-per-view match.
This should have been the finals, and I think we actually talked about that.
Yes, we did.
Which, folks, if you haven't seen it, please check out prior episodes.
Go back. Link will be in the description. Cheap plug.
So, and then, like I said, they should have had it different. Like, NWO could have worked, which, it's sad it went the way it did, because for a while there were plans to do the Four Horsemen. Evolution was supposed to be the Four Horsemen. But that never happened because Vince fucked up the NWO.
So, all right, I'll add to your point. So, the Rock and Hogan stare down for me, then to the match. That whole thing was great. I think this is where it really started to get fucked up. So, the handshake at the end and the hug, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash beating them up, then Hogan coming back, and then the return of the red and yellow. And for me, like, even Nash has said, it's like you're cutting the legs out from under us, because Scott Hall was supposed to beat Stone Cold. Hogan and Rock was going to beat Hogan, but they were going to lay out the Rock, and then NWO standing tall. So you literally kill the NWO like that to make Hulk Hogan a babyface again.
Because I think that's what Hogan wanted.
Yeah, and go back to being the red and yellow. And
what they should have done, and honestly, I think this would have been absolutely perfect.
Okay.
You still do, that finish, where Hogan's, huddled over and shaking Rock's hand. They do that. They have the emotional moment. NWO comes in, and then Hogan just kicks Rock right in the dick. And you have them beating him down. It would have worked. But Hogan wanted to be a good guy.
And then he would win the Undisputed Championship from Triple H.
And then lose it 3 weeks later to The Undertaker. And we had that infamous segment where he dragged him on the bike.
And then the infamous choke slam at Judgment Day to win, which was one of the worst choke slams I've ever seen in my life.
Between that and the one where he chokes on Goldberg.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that much.
We don't. But I have to add on to your point, because we mentioned them coming in, Rock and Austin, big feuds to set up Mania, but someone else would make a return after Hogan turns babyface. Your thoughts on the return of X-Pac, who was doing the X Factor stuff with Justin Credible and Albert at the time. He comes back.
He's randomly back in the NWO.
Randomly back in the NWO. What did you think of X-Pac coming back and being in the NWO?
Made sense. Again, like
WCW history.
He has history with Hall, Nash, the Click, and the problem was Nash being the leader of a stable just no.
Well, to add on to your point, I have to ask you as well, because we touched upon Scott Hall there, and this fits into the timeline. Did you like how Scott Hall's feud after Austin was Bradshaw? Out of all people to stand for the WWF and NWO, Bradshaw with Backlash 02?
Yeah.
Yeah, that match was not good. That match was freaking terrible. For those who've never seen Scott Hall and Bradshaw from Backlash 02, it was not a good match. You had Bradshaw as the babyface sticking up against the NWO. And to add on to your point, like Ric Flair was feuding with Stone Cold, so they did a tag match with Big Show and Stone Cold against the NWO. The Big Show turns on Austin and joins the NWO. That made sense, much like X-Pac. That made sense.
Former member going back to the end.
That. Having Ric Flair, who 4 Horsemen, hated the NWO, feuded with the NWO. You have Ric Flair work with the NWO.
Made no sense.
Made no sense. The continuity was not there. You have Austin, you have Ric Flair and Big Show against Austin. But what also made no sense, like you mentioned, Kevin Nash being the leader, then all of a sudden Booker T, like Harlem Heat Booker T. Booker T, can you dig it, sucker? Booker T. Where my dog's at, Booker T. Joins the NWO. Now, what were your thoughts when they made Booker T a member of the NWO?
There is another name that made even less sense than that.
I mean, his brother was in the NWO, but Booker should not have been in the NWO. Same with Stevie Ray.
And then Shawn Michaels comes back to join the NWO as a manager.
Well, wait, hold on. You forgot one other one. Do you remember the other one who they tried to get in?
Oh.
So Booker T was with Goldust, and they were doing their vignettes. Goldust dressed like the Crocodile Hunter. He dressed like a member of the NWO. And Goldust was trying to get into the NWO, which, again, makes sense because the Dusty tie-in, because Dusty was in the NWO, and they were all laughing at him, and Booker was laughing, and they were like, "Stop laughing, we don't want him in here, it's not funny." And then Shawn Michaels gave one of the you mentioned Shawn Michaels, we'll get to him coming in, but let's point out the fact that was one of the stiffest Sweet Chin musics to Booker T ever. He kicked the shit out of him out of the NWO, Daniel.
Yes, he did.
And
then Michaels comes back as part of the NWO, which kind of makes sense. Friends with Hall and Nash.
Yeah,
I think Hall was already gone at this point.
Yeah, that was the infamous Ruthless Aggression promo, and Kevin Nash gave him the finger, or else you'll end up like your buddy Scott Hall. And Kevin Nash did this, rightfully so, giving Vince McMahon the finger after that speech.
And then, because Scott Hall
screwed up.
Scott Hall.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, part of the problem with people that have Scott Hall's issue, you can't force them to get help.
Right.
You can't. If they're not going to accept it, they can't. It's just not going to work. So, it is what it is. Does it suck? Yeah, but.
And that's unfortunate. Like, again, one of the greatest people. We're going to talk about Scott on a future episode this season. But, like, Shawn Michaels coming in, again, like you mentioned, made sense. But
he comes out to his own music.
That was the best part. He came out to Sexy Boy. He came out
in an NWO shirt doing his shtick. They should have just had him come out to the NWO thing. Don't do Shawn Michaels. Just be normal guy.
Well, my thing too with that is like Shawn Michaels takes over. They needed more, tough love. They super kick the Big Show, and then it's like, Big Show, come on, Big Show, just like come back into the group, Big Show. Did you like how Booker T and X-Pac had a little feud? Do you remember the story behind this?
No.
So Booker T and X-Pac were beefing, and they tell it as why X-Pac left was he didn't want to do the job to Booker T, but X-Pac has said he had an injury at that time, and I think it was a mixture of injury. X-Pac was doing drugs, and he was also not in the best frame of mind at the time. I don't know about not doing the job to Booker T, but he was not in a good place. So that was the end of X-Pac. And I think we would have gotten Booker T and X-Pac at Vengeance as opposed to Booker T and the Big Show. And then the Big Show's away from the NWO. So the NWO 2002.
I think it was right around the time of X-Pac and
China. Yeah. God rest her soul. But yeah, no, from February.
What?
Oh, God, no. One Night in China, the adult movies that she made. Yeah. Oh, that poor woman. No, I mean, we talk about it like Latin jest there, but literally that poor woman.
She had a very rough upbringing. And it's obvious she loved Triple H. Like that was the love of her life.
And then the Stephanie thing happened.
What happened to her? I don't just blame Triple H. I blame Stephanie. It wasn't just him.
It was Stephanie.
Yeah, she was part of it.
Vince.
And they utterly screwed her. When really Vince should have done the right thing by her and should have said, okay, how do we make this right for you?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, Stephanie was afraid that China was going to beat her ass.
Well, she would have.
She would have mollywopped her.
Absolutely. But I mean, you look at someone like that, and to equate it with the NWO, and we've talked about this, every member of the NWO was practically in from both versions and dichotomy, and NWO's in the Hall of Fame. Again, we've mentioned this many times. I know China's in as a part of DX, but she needs to be in solo.
The only issue with that is
the adult stuff.
Yeah. Should she be? Absolutely. I will say this. I think, she stands more of a chance than a certain former world heavyweight champion who I will not name.
Yeah, that we've touched upon that people need to get out of their heads is not going to be in the Hall.
That guy, if that guy hadn't done what he had done,
he would be
absolutely guaranteed.
But that's my thing too, man. It's like we look at all this time period, and I mean from 2002, from February to the summer of 2002, like literally kills off the NWO, and we're gonna go here because we mentioned Kevin Nash as
leader. About 5 months.
About 5 months, yeah. But we're gonna go here. Kevin Nash, the 10-man tag,
the trip from hell,
the friggin' I'm gonna go hit Bubba, and then boom, I tear my quad, and he's yelling, ah,
oh God,
oh God. I don't mean to laugh, but then Bubba's checking on him like, Kevin,
what just happened?
Like, stay over here, like you're on your ass.
Literally stepped over. What was it? He stepped over. Was it Big Show?
Yeah, then it was either Bubba Ray stepped over him or Big Show stepped over, and it's like we got to get Kevin to the side. He's hurt.
Like Nash literally stepped over somebody, and then you just hear, "Oh God!
Oh God!" It's not funny that he got hurt.
Freak injuries were just like, what happened?
Well, I mean, Triple H hit Jericho from behind, but it wasn't as ridiculous as that one was, and he tore the quad after hitting Jericho from behind, but the man finished the match. This was just like, wow, and we laugh at it now, but it's
well, to be fair, Kevin Nash is also a 7-foot tall dude. You take a leg out, you may as well take them both out at that point.
True, but this was also the time, and I got to ask you, because we mentioned the leadership and the changes and how it was doomed from the start. The big thing that came out of it was they were trying to recruit Triple H to be in the NWO. And, well, that storyline went to hell because Kevin got hurt. So do you remember the original plan, what they were going to do at SummerSlam?
No.
So it was originally supposed to be Triple H versus Kevin. Now, I was at the SummerSlam 2002, one of the greatest SummerSlams ever, Triple H and Shawn. They were originally supposed to do Triple H and Kevin Nash with Shawn Michaels in Kevin Nash's corner. And originally then Triple H was going to join, and the NWO was going to be Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash.
That could have worked.
It could have. But I mean, the trajectory of it with Triple H and Shawn was amazing, that storytelling. And would you have been for Triple H? Because they were trying to recruit him, and they said if he wouldn't join him, or else. Do you remember when they were trying to recruit Triple H for the NWO?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Again, Triple H is one of those dudes, always better off as a heel. But I don't know. I kind of would have liked to have seen it. Would have been weird, wearing the NWO shirt.
I think for me, dude, like, I remember what they did to, like, kind of diffuse what they did, right? So Vengeance 02, that was when he had to decide Raw or SmackDown, and then Shawn convinced him to go to Raw, and then they did the infamous DX return, and then Triple H pedigrees Shawn, and that was the end of that, and then the heel turn there. But I think with what they made, because remember, this was the year of different creatives, and we've touched upon this, but Austin walks out, Ric Flair, who was the ultimate heel, working with the NWO, turns babyface out of nowhere. Randomly. Out of nowhere, feuds with Vince, and he, for the control of the WWE. They were going to do Triple H in the end.
Mollywopped by Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar beat the shit out of Ric Flair, and it was awesome. It was so good. And then Kevin Nash gets the quadricep. Oh, God, I'm hurt. And
oh God!
And then Shawn Michaels.
Why are we laughing at this?
Because it was funny. I'm not laughing. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make a laugh and it got hurt because he was out for a while and we didn't get Triple. First of all, the Triple H Kevin Nash feud in 03 when he came back is one of the worst fucking feuds ever.
It's worse than Scott Steiner versus Triple H.
Okay, that's all right. You know what? I'm gonna say it because we touched upon that show as well. Go back and watch it, folks. But fucking, I can agree with you on that because we got 3 months of Triple H and Kevin Nash, the 6-man tag at Backlash, the match at Judgment Day, and then the Hell in a Cell with Mick Foley as a special guest referee. That was even worse than the Scott Steiner because that only lasted 2 pay-per-views.
But seriously, like,
oh god,
oh yeah. And then Nash disappears.
Yes.
He has a hair versus hair match with Jericho
because he has to go film The Punisher, brother.
Because he's got to be, the Russian.
The Russian.
I think that was the character's name, was the Russian.
The Russian and the Punisher, yes. Good old Thomas Jane and the Punisher with Kevin Nash, yeah.
I still love that movie.
That movie's it gave us Slow Chemical, Finger 11.
Which is weird because that was a WWE theme first, and then they're like, hey, let's use it for Punisher.
Yeah. And then friggin' Kane, yeah. No. I mean Kane back in the day, yeah. Kane now, no. No. No.
Kane's dead. It's Glenn Jacobs.
It's Glenn Jacobs. And I don't like Glenn Jacobs. Leave it at that. And you know why, folks. You know why. Same with you. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Val Venus. I'm looking at you, Val Venus. Now even Logan Paul. PP. Even Logan Paul now. I'm gonna say this right now. Good God, man. Why? He's
a shit. He's a shit poster. Like, you always see people on the internet that like just love to get a fucking reaction out of people.
Yeah, he's that guy.
He's that guy. He's just like, what if I push this button?
Did you see why he wanted to do it though? Right?
No.
Because since he got Trump, for those who don't know, Donald Trump was on Impulsive, and if you've seen any Donald Trump interview, it's the same Donald Trump interview. He wants to try to get Joe Biden to talk about their debate coming up, and I'm like, Joe Biden really wants to go on Impulsive and talk about the presidential debate with you, Logan Paul. Yes, because Joe Biden is just lining up to do it because you know how people are going to be. Forget, Trump did it. Why can't Biden? Because he doesn't need to. It's like Dixie Carter with Vince McMahon in 2010. Oh, well, Dixie Carter did kayfabe commentaries and shoot-inners. Why didn't Vince McMahon? Because he doesn't need to.
Because he's running a Fortune 500 company.
Yes, and Joe Biden is the president of the United States. He's got more important things to do than fucking Logan Paul's podcast.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. But yeah, and then they go back to the NWO. It was dead on arrival. Kevin Nash and Triple H, thank God it did not happen.
Honestly, I really think Vince didn't want it to succeed.
Well, do you remember how it ended? He comes out to the NWO theme. That's the last time you're going to hear it. And then that was the night Eric Bischoff became the GM.
I'll be honest, Vince hates anything he didn't create. Look at Zack Ryder.
Thank you. I was going to mention that.
Look at anybody that has gotten over on their own. Rusev Day.
Well, I lean more toward that, but I also lean towards Zack Ryder because it's he had the finger on the pulse of the social media game, and he created his YouTube channel, and his YouTube show, and it got over.
He hated it. He didn't understand it.
And then he tried to make it a part of the WWE YouTube, and it was watered down, and he couldn't do what he did on his own YouTube channel because he wanted more creative flow, and it did Vince.
And he just stopped doing it.
He stopped doing it.
He wasn't a company man.
He wasn't. And I think the trajectory of, again, we touch upon the NWO, one of the greatest factions ever. A year in WCW, it worked, then went off the rails. 2002, it was dead on arrival. Injuries, Scott Hall and his alcoholism, X-Pac with injuries and his alcoholism, Booker T not being in the NWO that made no sense. He was only in the NWO for 3 weeks?
Something like that.
Yeah, and just the trajectory of what they wanted to do did not work. It didn't work.
I'll be honest. We talk about the legacy of the NWO, but I'm not even very confident in saying this. If there wasn't an NWO, there wouldn't have been a DX. If there wasn't an NWO, there wouldn't be a fucking Bullet Club.
That, and there wouldn't be what the Attitude Era was, because WWE's attitude came from what we saw in the WCW and ECW. And
furthermore, if there wasn't an NWO, there wouldn't be an Elite. And if there wasn't an Elite, there wouldn't be an All Elite Wrestling. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Thank you, Punker. But yes, no, you're absolutely correct. And I mean, DX, I mean, that was what they were in the locker room and obviously the Clique. But I think at the time when you're stirring up the Attitude Era, that was a great way to go. And I mean, we got NWO and DX sort of with WrestleMania 30.
31.
31.
Here's the thing. You have them come out
Yes.
in the black and white. You're telling me you couldn't have gotten the rights to the Wolfpack theme? I mean, Sting was NWO Wolfpack.
Well, also, it made no sense for them to come out in the black and white because Sting hated the NWO.
And then we got that one weird segment where it was like Legends Night or something, and you had them go after the Ascension, which.
Well, all right. I understood the story of the Ascension was like beefing on the Legends, but then you have X-Pac, like Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and JBL beat the Ascension and killed them dead on arrival. And the fucking Road Dogg and Billy Gunn have their mat match on pay-per-view. That was terrible, and the Ascension beat them. Like, no, that's okay. I'm good. It was terrible.
And then the New Age Outlaws, like a pay-per-view or two later, when
they won the tag titles. They won the tag titles from Cody Rhodes and Goldust. Oh, yeah.
Because that makes sense.
It just no. No.
And why is it that Billy Gunn, who's mid-50s,
well, he's 60 now.
He's 60.
Yes.
And he is still over as hell.
And he looks amazing. Because it's Billy Gunn. He doesn't stop.
I still love the DX Hall of Fame induction. He says, he can't fire me. I don't even work here.
He will buy that.
Billy, stop. You better watch it. He'll buy that pissant company just to fire you.
Well, at the time, friggin' with how that pissant company is now, good Lord. Good Lord. That's another show and another topic. But good God.
Honestly, Vince would have done it too.
I think knowing how Vince is, yes, he would have.
He would have done it just to spite somebody. Hell, he would have bought it just to fire Jeff Jarrett again.
Oh my
God. Like, you got to remember the infamous, like, I bought WC, and he's naming all these people. He specifically mentions Jeff Jarrett.
Yep.
Vince did not like Jeff Jarrett for a number of years.
He is FIRED, fired.
He basically, like, Jarrett has even said as soon as he heard Vince say, he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna have a job.
I mean, he did get into the Hall of Fame, and he did have that match with Elias. Yeah. That was it for Jeff Jarrett in WWE.
And then now, years ago, had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match, which made no sense.
But him and Jeff Hardy to promote that stupid fucking whatever.
The game, which was absolutely dog shit.
You played it, I'm guessing? Yes. Is that bad? Yeah. Like, well, Jeff Jarrett wasn't part of the NWO, and that's when it went to shit. When Jeff Jarrett's in the fucking NWO.
When Jeff Jarrett's in anything.
And I really don't hate Jeff Jarrett, but he fucks a lot of shit up for everybody. Anything he's in is just not good. Do I mention his reign of terror? Like we talk about Triple H and the reign of terror from 02 to 04. Did I mention Jeff Jarrett's 04 to friggin' 05 reign as NWA champion? Like, hello? Multiple times.
He would hand it off to somebody just, like a day and then win it right back.
Do I dare even mention Rhino winning the Battle Royal at Bound for Glory, and then he loses it right back to Jeff on Impact?
Didn't he lose it at a house show?
Hold on. No. Okay, so I know where you're going with. So Raven won the King of the Mountain match, and then Jeff Jarrett and Raven had the world title match at a BCW event, Scott D'Amore's Border City Wrestling, and he won it back, and this is when AMW turned heel, and he joined Jeff Jarrett at a BCW show. At a house show for Scott D'Amore's promotion, he won the NWA title back.
And then we get Rhino as NWA champion. Yes, that actually happened.
That happened. That happened.
There are people that have held the NWA title that are just like, really?
Rhino.
Abyss?
I mean, I like Abyss, but he won it on a disqualification.
R-Truth is a 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
That he is. Ken Shamrock. Oh my God. But yeah, no.
Kenneth.
Good old Kenneth. But no, I mean, again, I know this is what we do off the rails, but we love our wrestling. This is why we are Uncaged. But yeah, NWO 02. Nah. No, this was an epic fail. I mean, I would have liked to see Triple H, Shawn, and Kevin as the NWO, but in a way, I'm kind of glad we didn't.
You know, just no. Could the NWO work now? With the right person, yes. Yes, it could. It could work very, very well. Having said that, it should have just been left alone. And the idea that I mentioned, having Bischoff come in earlier, would have been what they should have done. And the problem was, you knew even then that Scott Hall was not in good shape.
No, and I mean, you have Scott, you have the three, which it was great to see. I think Scott had a match with Spike Dudley that was very easy that he had on Raw before the match with Stone Cold. But like, I mean, and I love Scott to death, God rest his soul, but he wasn't in good shape. Kevin Nash was Kevin Nash. Hogan was Hogan. And I mean, like I said, it goes back to the invasion of a lot of these guys set out their contracts, and they didn't come to WWE until like a year or two later after WCW was purchased. And then we got the mid-carders. So, in the invasion, so.
Yeah, like, you didn't have Sting, you didn't have Goldberg, because everyone's like, yeah, I got guaranteed money just to sit and do nothing.
They took it.
Wouldn't you?
I would have. Absolutely.
Travel the road, bump, get hurt, have to train, or
stay home.
Making 7 figures.
I'm going to take the 7 figures. Thank you very much. But yeah, NWO, and to put a bow on it, like we talk about members that didn't work and members that worked, running its course. Such a great idea. We saw NWO Japan. We saw everything that really made that whole hostile takeover of WCW. It's going to go down in history, man. Everybody still has the NWO shirts. From a merch standpoint, one of the most top-selling shirts ever in the history of wrestling. Like, such a great time period for wrestling fans.
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
Thank you, Kai and Taka, and Funaki. But yeah, folks, that was the NWO. I hope you enjoyed our rants, our rambles, and our analyzing, dissecting, and decipher of the NWO. And all right, I'm going to add one more thing to the NWO because it came up in my head. And this is our boy here, God rest his soul. Man, the Bray Wyatt, John Cena, if he was an NWO for the Firefly Funhouse, I love that. That was so funny and good. Like, that trajectory of John Cena. Like, don't gotta admit, that was pretty cool. That
makes you wonder.
It does. If we had an NWO today and John Cena was the leader.
I gotta think in a different world what would have happened.
I think so too. But that's just a fantasy of it, man. And that has the lineage and legacy and the impact that the NWO has at it, whether it be good or bad. We're still talking about it. Jeez Louise, man, almost 20 years later, about 18, 19.
I will say the NWO and WWE should have been deleted.
But you know what the NWO was?
It was just too sweet.
Sweet. And what is going to be sweet is our next episode of Uncaged, as we're going to talk about it from 2006 to 2010, ECW on Sci-Fi, which gave us the Sandman and the Zombie, which gave us Kurt Angle being all perked out. It gave us Rob Van Dam as the ECW champion, then losing it.
With a replica belt, mind you.
And him and Sabu getting arrested. The New Breed against the ECW originals. Matt Hardy as the ECW champion. Mark Henry as the ECW champion. Christian Cage comes back. The Superstar Initiative, Braden Walker, knock, knock, who's there?
I'm going to kick your ass.
Going to knock your brains out. Jack Swagger as the ECW champion. And a whole lot of Yeah, and Big Zeke, Ezekiel Jackson. Oh, we're going to get into the whole shebang. I cannot wait for the next episode. But if you want to go back and check out our episodes, you should go back and check out Mike Larkin 92. Subscribe and check out Uncaged seasons 1 through 3 and 4. Daniel Crimmins, promote the Pile Driver Pundit and promote
Coming back, recording an episode tomorrow.
Yeah, buddy.
You'll be seeing me real soon. Gonna get back into a nice routine. Got my dudes in the TSK. We are doing a show. We're doing it tomorrow night. We are doing a review of Clash at the Castle. Should be a good show. I'm hoping for at least a surprise or two.
Same. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it as well. For us, it starts in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we get it nice in the afternoon. Nice little afternoon show, and the morning for our people.
I got a root for my dude Drew.
Me too. This is some of his best work. From the guy who got released 10 years ago around this time, and then 10 years later, he's on the top of the freaking mountain.
His home country, he has to win the damn thing.
Let's go, Drew Effin McIntyre. So, what else you should go and do? SM Show 1, MCL92 on Twitter, MLarkinMB, Larkin_92. Subscribe, Mike Larkin92. Get the little bell, get notifications when you see these two faces right here doing the damn thing.
You should be subscribed already.
You should, because, well, we got it like that, and we appreciate each and every one of you that do
We're
listen.
that damn good.
Thank you, Triple H. So we go from Triple H. We go from Girls Gone Wild and Feeling Dirty to NWO 2002. And
I needed a shower after that episode.
Me too. And then NWO 2002 in this episode, where we're feeling happy, sad, mad, and just disappointed of what could have been. And then we're going to get into some comedy with ECW on Sci-Fi. Oh, the zombie.
Hearing Sandman shoot on that was hilarious.
They made me wrestle a fucking zombie. So that'll be our next episode 3 for Daniel Crimmins. My name is Mike Larkin. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. And I got one thing to say before we close out, Daniel. You know what that is?
So,
oh God,
what do you want to talk about?
What do you want to talk about? But oh God,
oh God.
We'll see you in the next episode. Oh boy.